everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ask a Death Doula. We are continuing on with the Good Death virtual book tour, and today we're interviewing Darren Evans. He has been a guest on the podcast before, and he's going to talk about our stories. We are going to talk about legacy, and I'll tell you this. At the end of life, one of the most important things that people want to know is that they will not be forgotten and that they made a difference, that they had an impact about being here. And we're going to talk about preserving those stories and not waiting for someone else to do it or waiting for it to be too late. What is your legacy? And here's a doula giver pearl for you. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want to be remembered for? This is about leaving the world a better place because we were in it. What is your legacy? So sit back, relax. The Good Death book tour continues with Darren Evans. It's going to be a good one. All right. Darren, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Suzanne. It's an absolute pleasure to be here from over the pond in England.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so very much. It is far too long. So I know that we have been working on this beautiful journey of helping patients and families at the end of life and to bring as whatever our gift is to this space. And you have such a unique, beautiful gift. So thank you again for being on the podcast. I can't wait to catch up with you, share with the world what you are doing, and also get the latest updates.
Fantastic. I've been following your journey with interest as well, so I'm all ears too.
I love it. All right. Well, that's beautiful. So can you share a bit about your background and what inspired you to make After Cloud?
Yeah, sure. So, my background's interesting, really. I've been working in social care technology, so the provision of technology to social care providers. Here in the UK, they're called, well, they were called clinical commissioning groups. They're now dispersed, but they're largely managed by what they're called ICB. So, healthcare providers, charities, 25 years or so of that experience. And a little over 4 years ago, it's coming up to 5 years already, Suzanne, would you believe? Um, my mother-in-law had a very aggressive form of Lewy body dementia. And it was a horrendous time for the family, as I'm sure you can appreciate. Anyway, my wife Pam and my sister-in-law Cam were primary carers, and at literally 10 months, very, very aggressive, she died. The last 2 or 3 weeks of which were in a care home. So providing a little bit of respite for the girls, really. And anyway, with that, and I'll skip forward, after the funeral, we were going through family possessions as you do. And it was actually my son, Dylan, was going through a family photo album. And he was asking my wife, Pam, who's that? Who's this? Who's this? And nobody had any idea. And what we quickly realized, Suzanne, is that when someone that you love or someone that you know or someone that you're caregiving for, someone that you're assisting, when they die, that whole library of information is gone. It's lost in an instant. And there's no retrieval. And I don't think people realize, unless you've been through the pain of death, and I know that a lot of the doula givers listening will have been managing this process with families. You don't necessarily realize how important that life story is. So anyway, to the point, my son said to me, "Look, Dad, you've been working in technology. Can't you do something to assist other families?" Or words to that effect. So I can't even take credit for it.
How old was he at the time?
He was, well, he's 17 and a half. He was coming up to 13, so 12 and a half, 13, there or
Amazing.
thereabouts.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how that one moment of what somebody can say or an idea that sparked can set off a whole next, level of technology and life saving. And so let's stay here for 1 minute if we could. You talk
Sure.
about storytelling and you talk about legacy and you talk about when that person dies, how that whole storyline is erased. But I also feel that in the fast moving pace of our world that we've literally forgot even the storytelling of just sitting around and talking to grandma and learning about, when I learn things about my mom, it's usually on long car drives that we have. We're like in that space. and they're fascinating,
Mm.
about the grandparents, about the lineage. So you're right that we've kind of lost that beautiful quality. And then, of course, when that person is no longer here, we don't have those stories, but there is a way that you've developed to capture those, which is really great. Why do you think preserving and sharing one's life story is so vital, especially as we approach the end of life? And we can use ourselves as examples because sometimes I think it's helpful for us to really embody that. And so, why do you think that that storytelling, what does that do for an individual, and what does it do for a family?
Well, what's really important here, Suzanne, is that as a society, and I think this happens really, really pretty much globally, with the exception of some community environments, we always look back retrospectively. Even nowadays, with the largest digital footprint that we've ever had as humans in history, we still look back retrospectively.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, it's actually what can it do for the individual whose story it is. And I'll give you a point in that. When someone here in the UK specifically arrives in a care setting, so let's take, for example, a residential care environment.
Mhm.
When they arrive in that environment, there is no backstory to the individual being cared for. So they arrive in that setting literally with maybe some GP notes,
Mhm.
what they call a MAR chart, so medication records and so forth. Um, if they're in the community environment, there is nothing. I mean, they might have a Facebook account or they might have an Insta or but nothing really which relays the importance of their history and their life and their family heritage.
Mhm.
And all of that information can provide better, more meaningful, person-centered care or end-of-life support, in my view.
Okay, that is rich beyond riches. So, because I agree 1,000 times what you're saying here. So, are you telling me that when we have a digital storytelling, our life in digital format, that when if we go into a care setting, residential or anywhere, that information can be accessed or shared, and that can contribute to that whole person-centered care that's given, or even an understanding. And I think this is really important to hear is that compassion, right? And empathy. And when people come to the hospital and they're dealing with illnesses, we don't know the story.
No,
And the story can reveal so much about where that person is, what they've been through, and allow us to, we can't always fix things. It depends on where things are at, but it can allow us to really have that compassion and empathy for people when we understand the journey that soul, that person has been through. I think that's so beautiful.
yeah, 100%. And also, you can sort of delve a little bit deeper into that history and have more meaningful conversation. Tell me, Bill, I noticed that you were in um, Austria in 1980. What was that like? Whatever it might be, you can just have that more compassionate, as you say, um, just really meaningful, personable conversation.
Yeah. And you know what that really does? It really brings in your true presence, right? Which I
Mm,
will often say is our presence, our true presence is the most powerful medicine we have to give one another. And if I'm there with somebody and can say, what was that like being in that situation? Or what was that like living in X? I'm seeing them.
mm.
And I'm really trying to connect on that level, which to me, when I was doing home hospice care, and doula giver work, when I'm in the home, if somebody is difficult, and again, people are in shock, they're going through the emotions of end of life. If there's a thing that I can identify for men, sometimes it's sports, right? If I can see some memorabilia or something that reflects a team that they like. But if I talk about people's pets, there's certain things that are those equalizers that really open up people to be able to connect. And it's just that beautiful doorway. And so I love what you're saying here because it's really true. And isn't that the medicine, right? Is really truly being present with one another as we're aging and at the end of life, which is great. Yeah.
I actually think that it could be drawn out at an earlier point in life. I mean, I don't think you need to wait until
Yeah.
you're old or infirm or even end of life. I actually think here's a case in point. I think doulas specifically, doula givers, um, could start to build really good community-based
Mhm.
trusted, trusted partnerships in community-based settings and capture those life stories over a period. They're already the trusted source. Um,
Mhm.
we want
I
to do a
agree.
lot more sorry.
No, no, no. I do agree with this because, the new book, The Good Death, which thank you for being part of, that movement. And it is about the good death. Yeah, that we talk about.
Yeah,
And
absolute pleasure.
thank you. And people will say, well, what is a good death? And on the highest form, a good death is a good life. And what
Mm,
does that really mean? And so when you're saying about sharing our life story and our legacy, it's important to do today. And the reason being is number one, it allows us to preserve our legacy and to let that story, but it also allows us to take a really good look at it and to see, are there things that I want to bring closure to? Are there things that need to be made sense of? Or are there things I know in my heart I'm supposed to be doing and haven't had the courage to do yet?
yeah.
So, yeah, so there's a beautiful awareness of that. And I will often say that when people do get a terminal diagnosis and we are at the end of life, which right now, global, if we could use a global kind of energy around it, it's the number one fear. People pretend it's optional. When it does show up, it really does not go well. We can't put things in place when we're not feeling well. So, allowing us to do our legacies now and tell our story, by the way, we have the opportunity to write the next chapter. So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
mean, a lot of people are afraid of the D word, aren't they? It's, when we say death, it's like it's not
mhm.
that you're not going to catch a cold just because you say cold. It's the same sort of scenario, isn't it? It's which is why I love your work. I love the fact that you're spreading this positivity around end of life. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
Well,
pleasure.
there's no accidents. And I think because I've had so much experience and been able to see the most beautiful end of life experiences, and I know that's really hard for some people to understand. How can you say that?
Mm.
But I want to invite people to understand that we've been dying for thousands of years as a human race. And in all cultures and religions, death used to be revered as a sacred rite of passage, almost
Yeah.
like a graduation or a ceremony. We've just lost that over the last 100 years, and bringing that awareness back can change everything in the perspective. So it is possible. And by the way, something that's 100% guaranteed, wouldn't we want to do everything in our power to be able to not only support people that we love to have from the practical sense, but also from an emotional point of view, knowing that we're here for a reason and that we want to leave the world a better place because we were each in it, whatever that means for you.
Oh, yeah, indeed. I mean, one of the things that we hold dear is social impact. I mean, we're a business. We are a business and we don't shy away from that.
Mhm.
But it's all about social impact. What can we do
Mhm.
for the
Yes.
betterment of society? We came at this from a heart-led position of, you know, a real life scenario, and that when we don't want to lose sight of that ever. I think it's really, really important.
I love that you highlighted that, and I think it's again worth re-emphasizing is that, especially for the United States, and I think a lot of places in the world, we're waiting for a certain person to be elected or a certain law to be passed when those things are fine, but each and every one of us has a choice every single day of how we choose to show up and where we choose to contribute. And to me, that's what really changes the world.
Yeah.
So I love that you shared that. All right. Can you talk about how preserving legacies has brought peace to people when dealing with the end of life? How has somebody's story been able to bring comfort, bring ceremony, bring peace into that end of life space for families?
Yeah, we've had a few instances. I mean, obviously, I can't share too much of personal clients' information, but I've had a couple of instances that where people have said, "Look, happy to share my story." In fact, there is one from Nick on our website who's he's living palliatively, if that makes sense, in the community, living
Yes.
well palliatively,
Hmm.
and he's created a case study for us. And it's actually really endearing because from his perspective, he said, look, it actually gives him peace of mind. It enables him to reflect, and he finds it therapeutic at the same time. So that's one person's view. I did have another guy, probably mid-30s, who was in hospice. So really, the sort of final 3 weeks, 2, 3 weeks of that transitional period for him, who had younger children. So we spent a weekend,
Mhm.
literally compiling short videos for him, which he could future post for his daughters.
Oh, I love future posting. I love
Yeah,
future gift sharing. It's like the
yeah.
person is still right there. You know, Darren, as you're speaking, it reminds me of two people specifically in my journey that were at the end of life and terminal and were able to share their story about what they were experiencing with such peace, clarity, inspiration that it is great that we can share our experiences in this space. But when you actually hear from individuals themselves about what they are feeling day to day in that space of having a life limiting disease, hospice care, whatever it is that they want to share with you, I feel like nothing speaks more volume about end of life and should we really fear it than that, and that can do that. I mean, preserving legacy and having people be able to pull from the stories and the journey, because isn't it when we live a life, isn't it about the life we lived? It's the
Mm,
moments that are sacred, and it's not these grand things. And I really want people to know that you don't have to think that you have to do some grand gesture to have purpose in life. It's the kindness that you show, opening the door at the grocery store, seeing somebody that you know is really suffering from isolation and loneliness, especially our elders. Our elders right now, we have basically discarded them and treat them like there's no value there. And when you take a minute, yes, maybe they don't move as fast as we do. Maybe there's some other things, but when you take a minute to acknowledge, and you will, I mean, that's the real wealth. Those are the wisdom keepers. But it's also the level of appreciation that they have when you do stop and see them, um, is something that each and every one of us can do every single day. So, very, very important. All that you're talking about. I want to talk for a minute and ask you about connecting generations. So you do talk about after cloud, connecting generations, and can you speak a bit more about this vision?
Yeah. So right now we operate across multiple services. We're even capturing the stories now of children, so children in residential care environments,
Mhm.
um, just to give them an independent voice. And we're working with a number of providers. Um, but yeah, so across all services, it's essentially gathering that information, um, enabling it so that it's there for infinitum effectively. I mean, it's something that's never going to get lost over time. Can you just remind me of the question because I just
It's
that
okay.
was
I just want
terrible.
to, no, 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 it's all good. It's really about generations. And,
Intergenerational, yeah,
yeah. And also, like, when we think about discarding our elderly, the wealth, when you see younger generations, even teenagers, interact with elders. And again, who's the real expert on life? People
yeah,
who've lived it.
yeah.
Learn from them, be present with them. And, you talk about combining the generations, allowing, and I think it's simply from the digital storytelling of having the story be able to be preserved so that just like your son was asking questions about his grandmother's family and who are these people, and we don't know the answers to those. We need to have that kept
So
in
so
safekeep.
yeah, 100%. So 2 points I'd touch on there. One is intergenerational learning. So um,
Mhm.
getting younger people within the family to ask those elders, the parents, the grandparents,
Mhm.
what is the story? Because they're doing two things. One, they're capturing those really, really important life stories and narratives of their elders, but they're also the custodian of that family heritage. The younger generation become the custodians of Nan's secret cake recipe or
Yeah.
grandpa's way of digging the soil or whatever it might be, even those small little things that often get lost over time.
Mhm.
They become I love the wisdom keepers. I love that saying that you mentioned just a minute ago. I wrote it down. They become then the wisdom keepers, you know. That's one thing. And then moving forward, what we really want to do is start to connect timelines so that you have this sort of
Mm.
real-time virtual living,
Yeah.
breathing family tree.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I got my Irish citizenship. So I am in the US. And so I was able to do that. And I can't wait to go over and follow the family tree, which I really don't know a lot about,
Amazing.
which is fascinating. And then when you say that you can then have this, it's almost like this. I don't know. It doesn't have an end, right? All these different parts to the movie, sequel one, sequel two, sequel three, because people can keep adding to it as the generations go on. So that's a really great segue into let's talk about technology in this
Yeah.
space. Because in this closet here, in this studio, I have a big canister of photographs, which I am a big photograph person,
Hmm.
but they have become worn and and I know they're going to get lost at some point. And so preserving them digitally, talk to me about the future of how it looks now and how you think this is going to go with preserving our photos and memories and all of our legacy.
So I think up until probably a year or two ago, I'd have said, well, what we do currently is capture what we call moments.
Hmm.
And moments are made up of images, audio, letters, and video. So all of those multimedia elements packaged as a moment, which are then applied chronologically by our software. So that's either within the app or via desktop. They work in sync. So
Hmm.
if you prefer to use the desktop, that's great. If you want to use your mobile, that's even better.
Okay.
Speech to text throughout, just to keep it simple for people.
Mm.
I think moving forward, and in relation to what I mentioned about 2 years ago, I know that sounds a bit horrendous for people, but it's actually quite beneficial in that we can potentially utilize generative AI to go out and gather those pieces of knowledge and information that we might not know about ourselves or our family history and pull it over for us.
Right. Good point. Good point. And do you feel that I think doing our legacy is so important for multiple reasons. It really helps us to put all this beautiful journey into perspective, right? And we know when we do life reviews with people as doula givers at the end of life,
Mhm.
because it seems like everything starts to bubble to the top, that there are those moments that things need to be looked at and found with more acceptance or forgiveness or peace. But there's also the regrets that people hold, of regrets of things that we've done in our learning, which there's no judgment, but also things we haven't done, the regrets of what we haven't done. I think doing our legacy allows us to really now put it out there. But can these beautiful legacy stories be used at funerals and memorials?
Yeah, well, that's another great question, Suzanne. So, the output of a timeline, and After Cloud generates this chronological timeline, as I mentioned. The output is an interactive web page and a QR code, and that QR code is unique to that individual. And we've actually now got. I'll tell you all about it. We've got two. I know of two that I'm able to share in America. One is for the chief of police or ex-chief of police in Boston, who has a QR code on his memorial, and his family have put that together retrospectively.
Okay.
And then we have another one for John Harold Bork, and his son Michael is an inventor, interestingly. And Michael and I started, well, we met, I think, online probably about a year and a half ago, and he's created a 3D glow in the dark QR code. So a 3D glow in the dark QR code through his 3D printer. But he's got that on his father's headstone. His father was a Korean War veteran, and he's produced this chronological timeline. And you can go up now to his memorial, scan the QR code, and see that rich life story.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So he was able to make a QR code that he put on the headstone that is attached to his after cloud
Yeah.
timeline.
Yeah.
And people can go up to that tombstone. This is so incredible. Scan it.
Yeah.
Do you know that there are, okay, so I know this might sound a little strange to people, probably not when the work that I do, but I do like to walk in cemeteries and I do like to go and I am always reading the headstones and imagining the people. And I think for me, I feel the grief, I think a lot of times that's associated with all of these families. And it again helps to fuel my work of what I do to really help bring back the sacredness to this. But I love reading headstones and the fact that I could go to that headstone and scan a QR code and really see the person and there's
Mm.
timeline. I mean, that is just mind blowing,
Yeah.
beautiful.
They've
I
all
think
got.
that's the future.
I think so. Absolutely. We have a partner actually here in the UK called Mindful Memorials, and they have in their showroom one or two examples, case studies with QR codes on them that lead to Aftercloud. One for Percy Shelley, the well-known poet,
Mhm.
and a couple of others. But yeah, it's here and now. It's available. People can utilize it, and they can. We've going back actually to what you mentioned about um, people's perception and some real stories. We did have a lady come to us whose younger brother died of cancer, and she sought permission to get this bench put next to the river where he fished. And she's got a QR code on the bench, which leads to his timeline. The only, I mean, that's fantastic. It was wonderful for her and to help her grief transition. Um, what we prefer is the person's own story.
I'm speechless. I think this is the future. I think
Yeah,
that timelines and legacy is so incredibly important, but the fact that you can make a QR code that can be in your favorite spot or where you are, that again, somebody like me who's not even related to the person cares, looks at that, wonders what that person was like. And the fact that I could actually do that and hear their story from their words and their wisdom and their perspective, I feel like this is mind-blowingly beautiful. That's
yeah.
incredible. So, Darren, how does somebody make a QR code from your AfterCloud? How do we get that step, that component done?
Oh, it's really, really simple. So in your Aftercloud account, when
Mhm.
you publish a timeline, we generate a specific URL link. So
Mhm.
that's your website
Right.
link, if you like, which
Okay. And then you make a QR code. Yep.
and at the same time we make a QR code as well. So you don't have to do anything. You can save the QR code to your or print it off, or you can or do whatever. Yeah.
So it can actually even be on prayer cards. Like it can be, this is this is it. So this
Yeah.
is so beautiful when you talked about AI, and you're right, just about technology and the evolution of technology in this space and using it for, supporting us in the journey. And yeah, so AI and technology, yes, but a little different. We know, but we know that if we use it, that it can be an asset, and this is a huge asset, which I'm so excited about. So before we start to kind of wrap up, I do want to ask you, what does a good death mean to you? What, in your beautiful opinion? And again, it can be anything and it can be unique to people, but what do you think has brought a good death, and what from the work that you've done and the healing that takes place in doing legacy work, what does that mean, a good death for you?
I think for me, that's a really great question. And it's not something we give much consideration to, is it? Unless you're living in that environment. But for me, it would be surrounded by family and people I love
Mhm.
and gentle and
Mhm.
surrounded by a lovely scent and all the things that doulas do very, very well, and that gentle hand holding.
Mhm.
I think that would, for me, would be a good death.
I love that. And I agree with you. That's what I with your pets there and the people that you love and the things that are
Mm,
important. And, again, bringing it back to this sacred experience it was meant to be, um, which it can be, and it can be really beautiful. I think where we get into trouble from my experience is when we are doing everything to run in the opposite direction.
mm,
And then we find ourselves there, but unprepared, and families are unprepared. And so, if we can breathe into the fact that this journey is such a gift and one day it will change. Also, the other thing that we hear when we deal with people at the end of life is we see the miraculous things that happen in that space, the wisdom that people share, the spiritual component to end of life, which, if we're not talking about it, we miss. And for me, well, the minute that I started working in that space and having those experiences, there was no doubt in my mind that things go on and on and on. And that is incredibly comforting. It also made me really think, well, what is this journey then for? So, really about the expansion of growth that we're all on. And so it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, I'm a great believer in that it's circular, and that is a transition. Which I think it relieves that fear about death. Actually, for a lot of people, if you can explain it in a way that this is it's just another chapter, it's just another page. I think helps.
Another page of the chapter, right, of our story. And that's what I'm told. People at the end of life will say, I understand now. It's like they get this spiritual wisdom that before they leave. And it's so healing and beautiful and exciting that
Mm.
it makes, right, the grief so much different. And it's almost like we change form. We still exist, but we change form. And so we don't want to miss the gift that we've been given here now, but we also, it's such a beautiful thing to know that, well, there, we always are existing. And so, and that's very comforting. Your
Yeah.
work is so important, and I've followed you for years and watched your growth and contribution. I love what you do, and I know our listeners want to follow you and see what you're doing, and also this next evolution of having the ability, which we are going to talk more about, you and I, of having the stories with a QR code that can be accessed anywhere at any time is really incredible. So, how can people find out more about you and AfterCloud?
So anybody can reach out to me, either LinkedIn as an example. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite high profile on LinkedIn. Darren Evans. Hopefully we can give you a link. Aftercloud. If you go to Aftercloud, all one word .co.uk is the website, and the case studies are on there as well to look at. We're particularly interested in partners that can assist us. Actually, we have a really good, trusted, strong network of partners that facilitate those meaningful life stories, and utilize our technology to assist and help them in gaining that information for people. So yeah, aftercloud.co.uk. We're on Facebook, we're on Insta, and LinkedIn.
Well, perfect. I'm going to put all your links down below. So, everyone, you can go ahead, check this out, because this is the future and this is a wonderful opportunity. And if you are somebody with a organization and work in this space, this can help your patients and your families tremendously. And they are looking for partnerships. So definitely check it out. Darren, I want to thank you for your passion. I want to thank your son for igniting this beautiful movement. And you're so dedicated to helping people move through legacy and in this space. I really appreciate you being in the world.
Oh, well, I appreciate you, Suzanne, and all your great work. There's a mutual beneficially, mutual appreciation society. That's what I wanted to say.
I
Yeah, I,
love
I
it.
I love your work, genuinely, and we follow it all the time, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, thank you so very much. And to be continued, we're going to follow up more. And I want to thank everyone for being here today. Darren, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
More than welcome. Thank you.
There you have it, understanding the role that legacy plays in acceptance for end of life, and not only acceptance for end of life, but how you make life amazing. Because when we think about our legacy and we think about how we want to be remembered and not wasting this opportunity of this gift of life to do what you came here to do. We all have something that we came into this world to do. I promise you, I understand that from end of life patients. What is your gift? What is your calling? What is your purpose? And if you feel your purpose is becoming a death doula, doula giver specialist, then we have our live semester starting and you don't want to miss out on finding if this is your path. You can sign up for the waitlist below. We only have 2 semesters a year. It's going to be an incredible experience. So do not hesitate. If you feel that that may be your purpose in life, sign up below for the wait list and we'll get you the information as soon as the doors are open. And remember, you are here to leave the world a better place because you're in it. And you do. We love you so much. Thank you for being part of this episode of Ask a Death Doula. The Good Death virtual book tour continues. We'll see you in the next episode.